The 1-6 Carolina Panthers travel up to Mile High to take on the 4-3 Denver Broncos. Do they have a shot? Let's talk about it. Hey folks, welcome to week 8 of the NFL. We've made it. Maybe if you're a Denver Broncos fan, you're excited. Hey, this is an opportunity for another win, a chance for us to get to 5-3 against a struggling Carolina Panthers team. And my gosh, are they struggling everywhere. Not only that, they got a new quarterback this week, folks. That's right. If you have not been following the news, Andy Dalton unfortunately got in a car wreck, but thankfully, his family, everyone was okay. Coming out of that, did hear about an injury, which initially we thought, hey, it was going to be the left hand. Turns out it's the right hand. As that news transpires, Andy was sitting out of practice. Dave Canales made the announcement. Bryce Young is your starting quarterback. And what a complete 180 whirlwind, whatever you want to call it, for this team. You go through the entire offseason hyping up Bryce Young. Doesn't play. Andy Dalton's hurt in the preseason. Bryce Young's our guy. See a lot of Plummer. Barely see Bryce Young. And then we get to this point. Bryce plays 2 games. Looks completely terrible. Deserved to be benched. Andy Dalton takes over. Looks good for a game. Then, things kind of sputter out. The flame itself died a little bit. And, hey, all Panthers fans said were like, hey, eventually we're going to see Bryce. At some point, we're going to be so bad that Dave Canales is, he's going to run out of excuses for not putting him back out there. And I'm not saying he was wrong in benching Bryce Young, because I think like I said, I think Bryce Young deserved it. Andy Dalton has shown us a much better product offensively, although these last few weeks, it's hard to come in here with a straight face and tell you he gives us the best chance to win. But I think it says a lot about Dave Canales, who continues and had continued to deflect questions about Bryce Young. Like, for me, I don't think he believes in him. And I think this is like an unfortunate situation for him. Or maybe it's fortunate that, hey, this thing happened. Now you have Bryce Young going back out there. And at this point, it's like, okay, well, I can finally show folks like one last time he's not it. And then maybe in the offseason, we figure something out where somebody else can pick him up and take him over. But for me personally, I already know he's not it. But we're going to go out here one more time and have a chance to show folks. I'm not saying he is betting on Bryce Young to fail, but I've got to tell you, it is stacked up against him this week. Bryce Young going up against one of the top defenses in the NFL. I mean, we're talking top 5, top 3 in a lot of categories. We're going to talk about those categories for the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos, coached by Sean Payton, who we know, rookie quarterback Bo Nix. Defense is outstanding. And so you go into this week and you're like, okay, well, we have a Deontay Johnson, maybe. We have an Adam Thielen, maybe. Passing days go by. Injury report. Now, I got to tell you, I don't think I was hopeful that or thought that Adam Thielen would come back this week. Like, that felt like a long shot. Same thing with Jonathan Brooks. It did feel like Deontay Johnson would be playing. He's been on the injury report almost all year. He sat out of practices multiple times. But this last week, after the loss to Washington, he talks about not being able to play every position on the team. A lot of folks lit into that. Some people calling him a diva. I mean, for me personally, it's football, and I do think he's right. Like, you got to be oblivious if you're a Panthers fan and you don't see how bad the defense is. What is he supposed to say? Because honestly, he's doing everything he can. He could not get the ball the first 2 weeks with Bryce Young as his quarterback. I don't blame him for being frustrated. This is a big year for him. It's a contract year. It's time for him to make his money. I'd be ticked off too. I also think he's coming, although he was on a bumpy ride there with Pittsburgh, he was in a stable franchise, regardless of what was happening or what he wanted to do on or off the field. He was in a stable franchise that continued to find ways to win games, even with terrible, terrible quarterback play through all these years, losing Roethlisberger, bouncing around. So he was around that, a stable franchise. Now he comes to one of the worst franchises in all of sports right now. I mean, it is a complete and utter joke where the state of the Carolina Panthers is right now. So I don't blame him. I do not blame him at all. However, you're now talking about Bryce Young going up again, one of the top defenses in the NFL without some of his weapons. And like we saw him in week 2 with Adam Thielen, with Deontay Johnson, everyone outside of a Tommy Tremble. But we saw Bryce fail. Like, I know he had Tommy Tremble earlier, but we saw Bryce not able to be successful, and it should worry you as a Panthers fan. We talked a lot about, or I did at least, a make or break season, and most folks are in the bucket of it's not make or break. I did feel like it was make or break because you can move on from a quarterback as quickly as you want in the NFL, not for long. Hey, not so fast, as Lee Corso would say. This is it. This is like chance for Bryce Young to prove it. And unfortunately, he's going to be, odds are going to be stacked against him this week. You go out and look at some of the guys who are officially listed as out. I talked about Deontay Johnson. On the defensive side of the ball, starting safety Nick Scott is out. Jordan Fuller, who's been working on a recovery, out. Talked about Adam Thielen. DJ Wonham. Hey, good news is Wonham, Adam Thielen making their way back to practice. Sam Franklin, Jaden Crumity. These guys are slowly working themselves back. And Brooks, but like, what is the point at this stage in the season? Like, what are we working ourselves back for? To come out and win 3 or 4 games? It's going to be a tough stretch. And Jamie Robinson also out. It's going to be bad, folks. I mean, so you go out, Panthers.com or wherever you want to look at your depth chart and look at the starting lineup for the Carolina Panthers. Ike Ekwonu, Damian Lewis, Brady Christensen, Robert Hunt, Taylor Moton. Hopefully Taylor Moton's going to be back. That'll be a positive. Tommy Tremble, Ian Thomas. As far as pass catchers, like Tommy, maybe, but Jatavian Sanders, he has been a bright spot over the last few weeks. I think if we go out, and I was looking at some stats before this, he had a career high last week, which I posted about. 6 catches, a little over 60 or 61 yards. He aims for his 3rd game in a row with 5+ receptions. So it's been positive to see him trending in the right direction. Slowly become more of a reliable target, although it was with Andy Dalton at the helm. But Bryce Young's going to have Jatavian Sanders, Tommy Tremble, Ian Thomas, likely your group there, a Jonathan Mingo, David Moore, and Xavier Legette, plus Jalen Coker. Out of this bunch, you're really talking about Xavier and Jalen, 2 rookies, Jonathan Mingo, who has not looked the part. And you talk about shopping players at the trade deadline. Yeah, he's one. David Moore, who's a little more reliable. But Bryce Young is going to have to take this offense and elevate it. Now, the one positive for Bryce Young is he does have Chuba Hubbard still. Miles Sanders is still hanging around, I guess, trying to build up his draft capital. Not draft capital, my gosh. Trying to build up his trade capital. That way we could get draft capital in exchange for that. So let's get that right. But you do have Chuba and Miles. It could get ugly. I went out and looked at the Denver defense. Again, we're going to dive into stats in just a minute. Denver Broncos, top in a lot of categories. Comparing the Panthers, I believe they have 28 sacks on the year. Do you know how many sacks the Carolina Panthers have on defense? 7. The one positive is the Carolina Panthers offensive line, even through injuries, they've been top notch. Like one of the best offensive lines in the league. That was a weakness last year. This year, looking much better offensively. Now, a lot of that can be geared towards the scheme that Dave Canales has put in place. Getting the ball out fast. We saw Bryce Young struggle in the first 2 weeks, just standing back there, being unsure, throwing into coverage that he shouldn't throw into. Andy Dalton, much smarter, getting the ball out fast. And that's what Dave Canales wants. And I even went back and looked at some of the clips from Dave Canales as the offensive coordinator at Tampa Bay. And he discussed the philosophy and scheme. And I think this might have been in the preseason even. It was talking way back when he first got there, some of the things he liked to see out of the quarterbacks. And he talked about, as a sprinkler head read, you talk about your first read, second, third, and fourth. What he likes to do is put the quarterback in a position that, hey, he knows to get the ball out fast, you're not going to be able to go through your progressions, like go through all 4 or 5, whatever it is, very quickly, like within one snap, within 2 seconds, to be honest. So he likes to have the quarterback eliminate some of those reads early, pre-snap. So you look at first and your first 2 reads coming up to the line of scrimmage. And I think that's one of the things that Andy Dalton really did well in, although he's made some mistakes. But overall, he was smart. Veteran, sees what he sees at the line of scrimmage, or at least what he thinks he sees. He's good about moving over. All right, I know that's not going to be there. Maybe I look that way, but then I know that I'm coming backside or to my third or fourth read, or that's who should be open. Now, I think that's burned him a few times. It's the scheme that Canales runs, but there have been a few situations where you look at Andy Dalton's decision-making and you can see where he's like predetermined almost that he's going over here. You look backside as you watch the film and there's players that are wide open. So I don't know, man. It's a tough day. I look at the outcome for Bryce Young. This is a huge game because next week you have New Orleans. New Orleans is struggling. If you could figure out a way to win this and build off of that momentum, ride it out as the starting quarterback for the rest of the season. I've said this too. Panthers fans should want him to succeed. They should. Think about having to start over. Think about what we invested. If he can just elevate us, maybe he isn't the franchise quarterback, but if he can give us 4-5 years, whatever it is, just play out his rookie contract, allow us to progressively get better at all positions around him. And then at that point, if we want to look at a veteran or if we want to draft our guy somewhere along the way in year 3, year 4, we just want to know that we can win games with Bryce Young because that's what we want. We just want to see the progress. And again, I'm not saying he has to be the long-term solution. I understand fans. I've watched the film. I know how he has played. But it's a big game for Bryce Young because here's what could happen, what likely will happen. If Bryce Young fails, if he plays poorly, does not do well, there is no doubt that he's done. Like I said, Dave Canales can go out. He can pump his chest, puff out his chest, whatever it is. Say, look, I told you, you saw it. Now, hey, this is it. We're getting him out of there. He can go talk to Brant Tillis, Dan Morgan, and they can figure out what they want to do up into the trade deadline or in the offseason, which seems like the more logical situation. If somehow Bryce Young plays well, I do think it gives him a door and an opening, like I said, to continue. And I think you look at New Orleans and you look at the Giants. And to be honest, like then you go to the bye week and then you come against Kansas City. Back half of the schedule is loaded. It's going to be difficult. But why not? Why not just go ahead, ride it out with Bryce? Like at that point, the season is over. You want to know, hands down, hand on the Bible, whatever your belief is, that this guy is it or he's not it. So that next year you can, we're going to have likely a high draft pick either way. Figure out if you're taking a quarterback. I think the Panthers should be talking defense. I think the Panthers, if they are in that number 1, 2, 3 slot, should be thinking about trading back. Yeah, you failed with Bryce Young in this situation. If this is where it landed, you can now recoup at least some. You're not going to get the same thing that you traded to Chicago, but you can get a similar offer or hopefully somewhat similar offer to start building the defense and maybe get a quarterback later in the round or the next year. Just my thought. But you got to build it, man. You got to build out culture. And one of the things I heard, I think it was Richard Sherman, who was, maybe it was Thursday Night Football, he was scolding Gerard Mayo of the Patriots for talking about the players being soft. And one of the reasons he was scolding him for that, he was telling him, or basically saying that, hey, you're a rookie head coach. You haven't proven anything. You don't have anything to rest on at all. So coming out like right out of the gate, and even Bill Belichick, I think, was involved in like the clip that I saw. Bill Belichick was like, hey, that was the same defense that we had last year, and the defense wasn't bad. So it's like it's you as a coach. And for me, I have wanted Dave Canales to kind of get fired up, to show some emotion, to, hey, just like give us a little something extra than what you've been giving us. But maybe that's the card he's playing. He wants to earn the respect. He knows that he doesn't have any, that there's nothing to fall back on. He's trying to build the culture. And until he can prove that his way is going to work, he can't really go out here and, scold these guys. Now, speaking of that, when we talk about trade scenarios with Deontay Johnson being out, he was asked about Deontay Johnson, and he deferred back to Brant Tillis and Dan Morgan. So that could leave a door opening there. Like, do we trade him? It seems more likely. I'm a fan of Johnson. I think the Panthers have messed up so many times in giving away talent and then not getting anything in return, or failing on what they get in return, like just not being able to make it work out. So that's my general take on this. Now we talk about the defense. Let's talk about this Denver Broncos defense. Like I said, top 5 in a ton of categories. They are top 3 in total defense. So in yards allowed, they are giving up 282 yards per game. Panthers are going to be in for a long day. On the flip side, Panthers giving up 385 yards. Broncos have allowed 10 touchdowns on the year. Just 10. Only 10 touchdowns. Panthers, on the other hand, of course, we know, worst defense in the league, 28 touchdowns. The only team that has not allowed more touchdowns than the Broncos are the Chargers. We saw how the Panthers fared against the Chargers. Passing defense is top 5 for the Broncos, 170 yards per game allowed. They've given up 6 passing touchdowns. So you have top 5 category there. Panthers giving up 223, which is 25th, and 14 passing touchdowns. So not the absolute bottom, but nearing the bottom. Rushing yards allowed. Where are the Broncos? A little leeway, but still top 10, 111 yards allowed, 4 rushing touchdowns. Panthers at the very bottom, giving up 162 yards per game. We saw what Marcus Mariota did. We saw what Jaden Daniels did, really, in the one series. I think Bo Nix is going to have a day. Bo Nix, I think, had, 75 yards, close to 70 yards last week rushing. He's going to have a field day. He's hard to tackle. Panthers do not have a pass rush. They cannot generate a pass rush getting to the quarterback. It's going to be tough, man. It is going to be a long, long day. You hope that maybe the rookie quarterback kind of fails, and I think Panthers fans would love to beat Sean Payton. There's no doubt about that. Points allowed per game, number 3 for the Broncos. They're number 3 in the league, 15.1 points per game. Panthers, bottom, 34.7. It's double. It's over double the amount. Like I said, the 28 touchdowns. Red zone defense, best in the league in touchdowns allowed, 35.7%. If you get into the red zone, they're going to hold you to a field goal or a turnover. Not allow you to score. Panthers, 70% touchdown rate. If you get into the red zone against the Panthers, there's a 70% chance right now you are going to score a touchdown. And I think we have all seen that. Third down efficiency, where, let's see, Broncos are a little bit lower, but 36.9%, not near as bad as the Panthers at almost 50%, at 47.7%. Cannot make this stuff up, folks. It is a bad football team. Let's talk about the offensive side of the ball for the Broncos and the Panthers. Total offense, not a stellar offense for either of these teams. Let's see. For the Broncos, 294 yards per game, 13 touchdowns is 27th. Panthers, 281 yards and 12 touchdowns. So pretty close as far as like how many points they're scoring. Broncos, of course, have the much better defense. Passing offense for the Broncos, 169 yards per game, which is 29th. The Panthers are 28th with 172. 7 passing touchdowns to 5. We all know that was Andy Dalton's 7. Again, Bo Nix with 5. Rushing offense, or I should say Bo Nix with 5. I don't have Bo Nix's stats, but I'll pull them up in a second. The team has 5. If there was a trick play, I don't know. I haven't followed the Broncos close enough. Let's see what we got. Rushing offense, yards, Broncos 124. Oh, they will easily hit that number. 6 touchdowns. Panthers aren't bad. 23rd in the league, 109 yards per game and 5 touchdowns. We talked about scoring. That's one benefit, potentially. Broncos are scoring 20 points per game, but then again, Panthers scoring 15.7. They were trending up, looked much better, and now they are like on the same path as last year. Red zone offense for the Panthers is actually 14th, so that is one positive. We can get to the red zone. We can score. 56% chance to score a touchdown or scoring touchdowns at that rate. Broncos, on the other hand, 52.4, which is 22nd. Third down efficiency. Let's see, Broncos on here at the bottom, 26.4%. So, hey, it's a positive. Panthers right above them at 30th with 30.9%. Can't make this up. Let's look at some of the stat lines for the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix, of course, leading the way like we said. He does have the 5 touchdown passes. 61.2 completion percentage. A little over 1,200 yards, 5.6 yards per pass, 178 yards per game. 5 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. He's been sacked 9 times, 74.4 passer rating. Rushing attack led by Javonte Williams. Go Tar Heels. 301 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. Bo Nix, second leading rusher, 255 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jaleel McLaughlin has 151 yards and a few other guys underneath that with under 100. The receiving core is led by Cortland Sutton, 277 yards, 2 touchdowns. Josh Reynolds, 183 and 1 touchdown. And Javonte Williams with 166, no touchdowns. Not bad. Defensively, like I said, Brandon Jones, 49 total tackles, leads the team. Cody Barton with 46. Riley Moss, 45. PJ Locke, 37. I talked about sacks. Folks, 28 sacks. Nick Bonito, linebacker, has 5. And Jonathan Cooper, 4.5. Zach Dillon with 4. Justin Strand, 3. John Franklin Myers, 3. Like I said, they have 28 sacks compared to the Panthers' 7. Interceptions, Surtain is the man. Pat Surtain, the second, 2, has 1 touchdown, 100-yard return. Good gosh. Riley Moss has 1. Alex Singleton, 1. And then Brandon Jones with 1 as well. Forced fumbles. They have forced 5 fumbles on the year. We talked about scoring, returning. Kicking game. Will Lutz has made 17 field goals on the year, 94.4%. 52 is his long. 12 for 12 on extra points. Always got to level special teams talk. Panthers, who now go to Bryce Young, he has 299 passing yards on the year. 56.9 completion percentage compared to Andy with 66.3, 989 yards. 0 touchdowns to 3 interceptions for Bryce Young. So Bryce Young coming into this game, he has nothing to lose, folks. Absolutely. Sorry, coffee break. He has nothing to lose. That's it. Like, play free. And I can't remember. I think it was Geno Smith on the Up and Adams show. She said the same thing. Just play free, Bryce. That's all you got to do. No pressure. Absolutely no pressure. Pressure-wise on this team right now. Rushing attack, Chuba Hubbard remains in the top 5 in rushing or flirting around there. 537 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns. He has dropped off a little bit. Again, this is very good defense. Limited weapons for Bryce Young this week. I think it's going to be a long, long day. I would think 3 or 4 sacks, probably a fumble, forced fumble, probably an interception. Wouldn't be surprised if there was a defensive touchdown at all. Miles Sanders, 132 yards. Andy Dalton, 34 yards. Yeah, rushing attack. Miles Sanders likely going to be out of here at some point, I would think. Deontay Johnson, again, your leading receiver, 357 yards, is out. He has 3 touchdowns. Xavier Legette is your next leading receiver, 177. Jatavian Sanders, right below him, the third leading receiver in yardage, 151. Xavier Legette and Jatavian Sanders are top 10 among all rookies in receptions. Got to find some positives. Jonathan Mingo with only 121 yards, disappointing. Adam Thielen with 109. Jalen Coker, who continues to see production, with 108. Chuba Hubbard with 93. On the defensive side of the ball, Xavier Woods, your leading tackler, with 51. Shaq Thompson, who's been out for 3 or 4 weeks now, with 35, is still your second leading tackler. Trevin Wallace with 34. Mike Jackson, 33. J.C. Horn. The positives on the defensive side of the ball really have been J.C. Horn. That's it. Some Trevin Wallace coming around. But those are your 2. I mean, there's a question that's been floating around about how many of these players would be starting elsewhere. How many of these guys across this roster, if you just stripped it down and said, okay, NFL, come pick these guys up, how many of them would start elsewhere? And I got to feel like it's maybe 8 or 9 on the entire team would be starting elsewhere. If you said how many people of these guys would be on another roster, I think you're 25, like half of the active roster, maybe 22, 23, 24. It's tough. Tough day. Eddie Pinheiro on the year is where did it go? Kicked it off. Scoring. Oh, nope. I hit the wrong thing. 1 second. He is 9 of 10, 90% on field goals, 11-11 on extra points. Let's get into the final prediction. The Denver Broncos opened as 7.5-point favorites. That line has moved since Bryce Young was announced as the starter. They are now an 11-point favorite, folks. 74.7% chance to win, according to ESPN's matchup predictor. Panthers have never won in Mile High. The all-time record, if we can pull this back up, I had my notes. Denver leads the all-time series 5-2, and they have won 3 of the past 4. We're not even going to talk about the Super Bowl game because, man, I don't want that sitting in the back of my mind. Carolina coming off the 47 loss to Washington. Wow. The Denver Broncos knocked off New Orleans 33-10. Led by Sean Payton, like we said. He has a career record of 164-101, which is about 61.9%. 18-13 against the Carolina Panthers. All time. Winning record. I know Panthers fans want to win this game. I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. I think the whatever you want to call this train wreck of a season, and we saw Dave Canales this week kind of finally just admit that he has never seen a season like this in, the years that he's coached. I don't know that Panthers fans, we see this every year. So welcome to the party. With that said, yeah, I would take the points with the Broncos. I think they easily cover. I'd love to be wrong But I think it's going to be a long day for Bryce Young, a long day for the offense, trying to contain Bo Nix, which sounds kind of crazy to say, but I think this Panthers defense is so bad. Marcus Mariota ran all over us, made it look easy. Every quarterback that we have played over the last few weeks stands back there, has 5, 6, 7 seconds to pass. It's going to be bad. It's going to be a long day. I'd love to see a Panthers win, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I am taking Denver. You know what? Let's keep it close to what we had against New Orleans. We'll take Denver 35, Carolina 13. Maybe they score points late, but it's never close. I'll take. Anyways, folks, this is CD, your host of Growls One Roar podcast. That's all. Y'all have a good one.